Commander stood at the observation deck of his vessel, staring into the darkness of Sector Omega-9. His three eyes blinked slowly as he processed what the scanners were showing him. In all his 400 years of service to the Galactic Council, he had never seen anything like this. The Forbidden Sector had earned its name through centuries of terror. Ships that entered never returned. Probes sent into its depths went silent within minutes. The greatest minds of 12 civilizations had studied it, and all had reached the same conclusion. Whatever existed in Sector Omega-9 was beyond their understanding. It consumed everything. It showed no mercy, and it had no explanation. Yet there it was on his screen. A ship, not just any ship, a human ship. "This is impossible," whispered Lieutenant, her scaled face pale with confusion. "The humans only achieved space travel 30 years ago. They barely understand hyperspace technology. How could one of their primitive vessels survive in the Forbidden Sector?" Had no answer. He could only stare at the ancient-looking craft that drifted peacefully in a region of space where entire fleets had vanished without trace. The ship appeared damaged. Its hull showed signs of battle. Scorch marks covered its surface like the scars of a warrior who had faced 1,000 enemies. But it was intact. It was whole. And according to their sensors, there was still power running through its systems. "Contact the Council," ordered. "They need to see this." Within hours, representatives from 7 different species gathered aboard's command ship. They argued, debated, and questioned everything. The believed it was a trick. The suspected the humans had somehow made a deal with whatever lurked in the sector. The crystalline collective remained silent, their geometric forms pulsing with uncertain light. Admiral of the High Command slammed his fist against the council table. "We must retrieve that vessel. If the humans have discovered something about the Forbidden Sector, we need to know what it is. Our entire understanding of the galaxy depends on it." No one disagreed. The decision was made. A recovery team was assembled. Volunteered to lead it himself, despite knowing the risks. 15 of the finest soldiers from across the allied species joined him. They boarded a heavily armored shuttle and crossed the invisible boundary into Sector Omega-9. The moment they entered, everything changed. Their instruments went wild. Strange readings filled their screens. Energy signatures that made no logical sense danced across their sensors. The very fabric of space seemed different here, as if they had stepped into another universe entirely. Several of the soldiers began to panic, their training barely keeping them composed. But nothing attacked them. They flew deeper into the sector, following the signal from the human ship. Minutes passed, then hours. Still, they remained unharmed. Whatever had destroyed countless vessels before seemed uninterested in them. When they finally reached the human craft, ordered a full scan, the results made his blood run cold. The ship was old. Not just 30 years old, as human space travel would suggest. According to their dating systems, this vessel had been drifting in the Forbidden Sector for over 200 years. "That predates human space flight by nearly 2 centuries, said, her voice trembling. "How is this possible?" They docked with the mysterious craft. The airlock opened with a groan of ancient metal. Inside, the corridor was dark, lit only by emergency lights that somehow still functioned after all this time. The walls were covered with strange markings, numbers, equations, and what appeared to be warnings written in a language none of them could fully understand. Led his team deeper into the ship. They found laboratories filled with equipment that looked primitive yet showed signs of incredible ingenuity. They discovered storage rooms packed with supplies that had been carefully rationed. And everywhere they looked, they found signs of a crew that had lived, worked, and survived in this impossible place. Finally, they reached the command center. There, seated in the captain's chair, was a human. She was old. Her hair had turned completely white and deep wrinkles lined her face. But she was alive. Tubes and wires connected her body to the ship's systems, and her eyes were closed in what appeared to be a deep sleep. Before anyone could react, the woman's eyes opened. They were not the eyes of someone who had just awakened. They were clear, focused, and filled with a strange mixture of relief and sadness. She looked at the alien faces surrounding her and smiled. "You finally came," she said, her voice rough from disuse. "I wondered if anyone ever would." Stepped forward. "Who are you? How did you get here? How have you survived?" The woman took a deep breath. She disconnected herself from the machines with practiced efficiency and stood on shaky legs. Despite her frail appearance, there was something powerful about her, something that made even the most seasoned warriors in the room feel small. "My name is Captain," she began, "and this is going to be difficult for you to understand." She explained that she had been part of an experimental human project. Long before humanity had developed standard space travel, a small group of scientists had discovered something strange. They had found a way to fold space, to jump across impossible distances in the blink of an eye. But the technology was unstable, dangerous, and the governments of Earth had forbidden its use. And her crew had ignored those orders. They had built a ship in secret, gathered volunteers who understood they might never return, and they had launched themselves into the unknown, hoping to prove that humanity could reach the stars. Something had gone wrong. Their jump had sent them not just across space but through time itself. They had emerged in the forbidden sector, 200 years in their future, with no way to return home. At first, they thought they would die. The sector was filled with entities beyond comprehension, beings made of pure energy that consumed everything they touched, creatures that existed between dimensions, horrors that had driven entire civilizations to extinction. But the humans had not surrendered. They had fought, they had adapted, they had learned. "The things in this sector," continued, "they are drawn to fear. They feed on panic, on the terror that fills a mind when it confronts the unknown. That is why no ship ever survived. The moment any species entered this place, they were overcome with dread, and the entities consumed that fear along with everything else." Felt his heart's pounding. "But humans also feel fear. How did you survive?" Smiled again. It was a tired smile, the smile of someone who had seen too much but had refused to break. "Yes, we feel fear, but we do not let it control us. Humans have a strange quality that I have never seen in any other species. When we face something that terrifies us, something impossible, something that should destroy us, we do not simply feel terror. We feel something else as well. We feel curiosity. We feel determination. We feel a stubborn, ridiculous desire to understand." She walked to the observation window and looked out at the swirling darkness of the sector. "My crew and I spent decades studying these entities. We learned their patterns, we discovered their weaknesses, and eventually we found a way to exist alongside them, not as prey, not as enemies, but as something they could not comprehend, something that refused to behave the way they expected." The soldiers looked at each other in disbelief. The idea that a handful of primitive humans had done what entire civilizations could not was impossible to accept. Yet the evidence was right in front of them. Turned back to face them. "I am the last one. My died over the years, old age, accidents, sacrifice. But before they went, we completed our work. We mapped the entire sector. We documented every entity, and we found something that will change everything you think you know about the galaxy." She reached into a compartment and a small device. It was simple, unremarkable, but when she activated it, holograms filled the room. Maps of pathways through the forbidden sector, detailed analysis of the entity's behavior, and at the center of it all, the location of something ancient, something that predated every known civilization, a structure at the heart of the sector that contained technology beyond imagination. "This is why I waited," said. "I could have died peacefully years ago, but I needed to give this to someone. The universe needs to know what is hidden here, and only those who can master their fear will ever be able to claim it. Looked at the holographic data, his mind struggling to process the magnitude of what he was seeing. This was not just information about the forbidden sector. This was a gift, a legacy left by beings who should have been insignificant in the cosmic order but had instead achieved something extraordinary. "Why give this to us?" he asked. "We are not humans. Can we even use this knowledge?" Reached out and placed her weathered hand on his arm. "That is the final lesson my people learned in this place. Fear is not unique to any species. It is universal, but so is courage. So is the choice to face the darkness instead of running from it. If we could do it, so can you. But you will have to work together, every species, every civilization. This is not a challenge for any one people to face alone." She pressed the device into his hands. Her strength was fading now. The effort of staying alive long enough to complete her mission had taken everything she had. "Tell them about us," she whispered. "Tell them that humans were here, that we faced the impossible and did not look away, and tell them that the forbidden sector is not a barrier. It is a door, one that leads to the next chapter of galactic history." Captain closed her eyes for the final time. She died standing, facing the window, looking out at the sector she had called home for 2 centuries. A soldier to the end. A pioneer whose name would be remembered long after the stars themselves burned out. And his team returned to the council with the data and the story of what they had found. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Scientists began studying research. Expeditions were planned. And for the first time in recorded history, ships began successfully traveling through the forbidden sector. At the center of council space, a monument was built. It depicted a small, primitive ship surrounded by the darkness of the unknown. And beneath it, in every language of every species, were inscribed the words that would define a new era of galactic exploration. "They were afraid. They went anyway. Humanity showed us the way." The forbidden sector was forbidden no more, and the galaxy would never forget the humans who had opened its doors.